Good afternoon, everybody. Car and Biker here, and it feels like spring is in the air. It's not spring yet. It's the 5th of March, and I'm not a weatherman. I'm more on the science side of things and astronomy. So for me, this year, spring starts on the 21st of March. So we're a couple and a half weeks away from it. But that ball of fire up there is still there. Ball of fire. For the people who also say they're more into astronomy will know how bad that sounds. So, you know, it's not bitterly cold. That's a good enough excuse for me for going for a ride. It's actually the second time I've tried to have this ride and tried to make this video. I came around that roundabout earlier on, which is where I'm going to talk about a little incident that occurred, and then I got to about here, and over the top of the hill came Graham coming the other way on his monkey bike. So I popped back and had a chat with him, but I'm not going to video the route to Graham's house. So I thought I'll start that video again a little bit later on, and here I am. So what happened? Well, that roundabout that I've just gone straight across, I was actually coming from the junction that was to my right, and I was turning right to come up here. And as I got onto the roundabout, a car just pulled onto the roundabout straight in front of me, didn't give way. And it made me think, I've been watching a few channels recently that I quite enjoy. One of them is a chap called Ashley Neal, who you may or may not have come across. He's a driving instructor. I'm not watching him because I'm learning to drive, though. I'm watching him because he does some quite interesting videos on analysing incidents on the roads and things like that. And then, of course, like most people who are into motorbikes and YouTube, I watch the odd channel like, or the odd video from channels like Moto Madness or Dan the Fireman, that kind of thing. Dan the Fireman, I think, is quite good the way he does the again, the analysis, a bit like the Ashley Neal stuff in cars. And then Moto Madness type channel. I used to watch that as a learning exercise. Honest, not just for entertainment. I know a lot of people do watch it just for entertainment, and I'm not going to kid you on that I don't get entertained by it from time to time as well. But I always started watching that type of channel as a learning opportunity, so I could watch what other people were doing and try and learn what I might have done differently. I think it's a positive thing to do. It's certainly more positive than getting into your own scrapes and then having to work out what you could have done differently. What Moto Madness seems to have turned into recently, or all those channels recently, maybe it's always been like it to a certain degree though, it's just a lot of angry people who are not very good at observing what's going on around them. So you can often see, and you've got an advantage, you know that something's going to happen, don't you? But you can often see exactly what's going to happen, sometimes 10 seconds ahead of the person who's actually on the motorbike. But quite often they don't see what's going to happen, or they don't have a concept of risk. I saw one the other day of a chap who was in America, so roads obviously backwards from left to right, and he was heading down a road where he's doing about 40 and the car in front of him is doing about 30 in the right hand lane, so the equivalent of the left hand lane here, but it was 2 lanes either direction. And he decided the best thing to do just before a bend to the right was overtake that car on the right between the car and the curb. But if you can't see what's going to happen at that point, or where the risk is, you know, I think something, you know, maybe you need another lesson, or maybe you didn't have any lessons before you got on the bike, I don't know. But you don't really learn a lot from watching those. You just kind of put your head in your hands and think what you're doing. Now some of them, I think, as I say, just because people need another lesson or two, some of them seem to be people absolutely going out to try and cause problems so they can make a video. You know, you see people filtering at 60 miles an hour and then they're shocked when a car pulls in front of them. or they pile up to the back of a car on the equivalent of a motorway at 70 miles an hour, very quickly change lane and accelerate to overtake, and are shocked when the car also changes lane. And then there's obviously a debate about who's in the right. There's always in the comments a debate about who's in the right and who's in the wrong, which I think is possibly the most pointless debate possible. Because if you smash into somebody and lose your legs or break your back or kill yourself in an accident, I don't think you can get much solace from knowing that you were right and it was their mistake. I think it's much better to predict that accident is about to happen and avoid it in the first place. Now, the one for me, and I'll put the clip in, I haven't seen the clip myself obviously because I'm still on the bike, so I can only surmise what I think happened. But as I say, I think it's worth analysing these things and working out, you know, what could you have done differently or what happened. Now in this case, I went onto the roundabout and I saw there was somebody coming from the left, and they weren't going that quick, but they were going quick enough that perhaps they weren't going to stop. So I didn't accelerate, and then it became clear as he pulled out that he definitely wasn't slowing down. So as he approached the white line, the giveaway line on the roundabout where he should have stopped, he just came straight through it. But I was already eased off at that point, so I could just touch the brakes a little bit. I don't even think I needed my front brake. I think I reached for it, but I had my foot ready for a rear brake because I was going slow, so, you know, rear brake was enough. And I avoided him. And I thought about it after. Now, I did go alongside him with the intent of just pointing to my eyes and giving him the, you know, you really could have looked message. I don't know if that counts as aggressive. I didn't rev bomb, that would have been a waste of time anyway on a 500cc twin Honda with a stock exhaust. It's hardly going to scare anybody. I didn't even hit the horn, because the horn is something I use rarely, to be fair. I think if you shock somebody enough that they panic and stand on the brake, that can actually be really bad. Where I was heading towards the side of his car, slowing down on my rear brake. If I'd have tooted and he'd have slammed on his brakes and stopped, I probably would have piled into the side of his car, and then yes, he would have been in the wrong for pulling out in front of me, but I would have had a damaged bike and higher insurance premiums, and it was easy enough to just avoid and do nothing about it. So I did intend to give him the "you could have looked," but actually as I went past him, he gave me a wave of an apology and I gave him a wave back, and, you know, a wave of "don't worry about it." Certainly it's not going to go on Motor Madness, is it? It's not going to be worthy of that. But just made me think, yeah, how many people out there are now getting into this habit of looking for blame and looking for a means to have a good shout and a good rant and a rev bomb or whatever, and how many of them are doing it just for YouTube, just for the internet points? The most meaningless point there's ever been is the internet point. And how many people are actually going to go back and look at it and work out what they could have done better or what they did wrong? Now, I'm going to look back at this one later on and find out if there's something I could have done better. As I say, I've not looked at it yet, or if there's anything I did wrong. What I actually suspect probably happened is that I would have been in his air pillar. I don't know if everyone calls it an air pillar around the world, but you know, the big chunk of metal between the windscreen and the side window. Because we're both approaching around about the same speed and we're approaching it at roughly 90 degrees to each other, it would not surprise me at all if I happened to be in his air pillar for the entire movement. And he's been one of these people who just glances to the side rather than kind of move forwards and backwards to have a look around that pillar, which I think is probably the majority of people, to be honest, who don't move around in the seat very much when they're in the car. I don't think it was anything more than that. I certainly don't think he was doing it on purpose. I think it's just a, you know, accidental and not worthy of mention. Why am I making a video about it? But I'm going to look back and see if that is the case, because I think will be the learning point for me of making sure on that kind of situation that you know, I don't put myself in that A-pillar like that again. Intrigued to know what your thoughts are on this one. I mean, I suspect you're all very sensible people because you watch my channel, so presumably you're all going to be in that same boat. How do you do? Hashtag sarcasm. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.